What is up, fellow humans of the cardboard? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got another deck profile. This time we're looking at SHADDOLLs. Now this is pure SHADDOLLs, which is my personal favorite variant of SHADDOLLs. I just think it's more interesting to be able to really see what the archetype can do on its own without being splashed with stuff like Invoked and like a full Dogmatica package and stuff. So this is a pretty pure variant here with a small little engine splashed in, which you will see later on. But yeah, with the two new cards coming from Ghost from the Past, I did want to update this deck because it is one of my personal favorite decks, and I think these cards are really cool utility for the deck, and in a pure variant they can actually have some really cool uses. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. I don't want to spend too much time talking about SHADDOLLs. We all know what SHADDOLLs do, right? Starting off with our monster lineup, we've got 3 copies of SHADDOLL Wendy, 2 copies of Squamata, and 2 copies of Ariel. These are the only ones I play multiples of. There's an argument to play like multiples of Hedgehog and stuff, but I think these 3 are the ones that I'm sitting pat on for right now on what I want to play multiples of. I did drop Squamata from 3 to 2 in this list just because if you want to add the 2 new monsters in, just to even try them out, you do need to like cut something, and if you don't cut something, then you're just gonna end up bricking on like way too many SHADDOLLs fairly often. So don't want to do that. Ariel's definitely a 2-up because this card is fucking insane. This card blows out like so many decks just because you have an option like this to be able to disrupt your opponent with. That is it for those. Then we have a ton of 1-ups, all right? Starting off with SHADDOLL Hedgehog, then the Beast, then the Falco, then the Genius, the new boy, then a Dragon, and last but not least, also a Hollow. Now, there's definitely some wiggle room here. You can decide what you want to run. I'm kind of just playing 1 copy of each of the new ones, kind of just because I wanted to try them. I'm not even entirely sure which one's good or which ones you keep in at this point, but I think all these cards just give you a ton of utility. Obviously, Hedgehog searching you all of your deck. Beast getting you draws, especially the draw 2 and discard is insanely powerful. Falco getting you recursion. In a pure variant, I really think Falco is insanely good. Genius getting you additional disruption in a new way. I've talked about this in a separate video on like why I like this card for SHADDOLLs, but pretty much like, I don't know. SHADDOLLs can be weird because they set up like a weird window lock, or they can do like the Ariel Banish 3, and both of those are insanely powerful cards, but there are definitely decks that don't care about those kind of interruptions or floodgates all too much. So it's nice to just have a standard imperm almost effect. It's different than imperm, says the monster can't activate it, but can't activate the effects period, but still very good. I like it a lot. Then the 1 Dragon for popping back row, and then Hollow. Hollow's really cool as well, especially with something like Sinister Shadow Games to be able to set up and quick flip him on your opponent's turn to get a very powerful banish effect. But yeah, all 1-ups there. That finishes up the SHADDOLL lineup for the main deck. That will take us to our one and only, well, not our one and only, but our best light target to send, Dogmatica Ecclesia the Virtuous. Listen, I'm not playing a full Dogmatica package. I wouldn't expect any of you guys, and not any of you guys, but they're just like people in general to have access to a full Dogmatica package. And I'm not even sure it's like better. At some point, it's like not even pushing your strategy as much as you want, or it's too slow. But I like the 1 Ecclesia. You can dump it, then reborn it off of multiple different effects. Otherwise, if you draw it, it's not a brick. It's just a phenomenal extender that makes your board that much more powerful. And I think it's just one of the best like single light you can play to be just like your fusion material. Obviously, you could look at something like a Magistus package or anything like that to also play a cool light engine card. But I really like Ecclesia here in the slot. She's like 30 bucks, but it's just a 1-of. We're not even playing Fleur-de-Lis or, you know what I mean, Nadir or even Titaniclad. It's just 1 copy of her. So I do play some hand traps, finishing up the monster count here. Nothing too crazy though. I just want a little something to help me play going second. I'm not even entirely sure if these are fully necessary though. It might just be straight up better at this point to just play like traps and just say, screw it. I'll just set 4 into your board and let's go at it, man. But I do like having the Nibiru's in here because it does give us additional light targets. So if you opened the Ecclesia or want to SHADDOLL fusion later in the game, and you want to go for Construct, there's no good SHADDOLL lights, unfortunately. None of the good ones are light. And so without having a good light, you'd like maybe pull the Ecclesia too early, you might not even be able to resolve it for a construct, which can be really problematic in certain duels. So I like having the Nibiru. So I'd consider cutting Ash or maybe siding it if I really think it's good enough in the side, but I still would like to keep either Nibiru or Lancia or some other light hand trap or something else to have additional targets for that. But still playing those in the main. But like I said, I definitely think there's an argument for cutting them because there's no combo decks right now. They're like setting up like insane, crazy boards. Like Dragon Link sets up some boards, but they're not like insane, like scare your pants off kind of boards, you know? All right, for our spell lineup, we're on 3 copies of SHADDOLL Fusion, 2 copies of SHADDOLL Fusion, 3 copies of Super Polymerization, and 1 copy of Foolish Burial there on the end. This is all I play for spells. As far as the spell lineup goes, I just think ratio-wise, right now I'm on 45 cards in the main. That might make some people cringe, but like I said, I'm also considering lowering the hand trap count and just saying screw it. So if I do that, I might drop a copy of SHADDOLL Fusion and just play 1. I don't think it's fully necessary. I think the deck does plenty good just getting into its fusion cards by itself. You also have like Schism, so you've got like Super Poly, SHADDOLL Fusion, and Schism, all that like are just, you know, hard like fusion spells you can draw into, which is not that tough at all. By the way, I do think Super Poly is fully necessary right now. I think in this deck it's just so good, right? Like if it's light, dark, or even arguably earth, this deck can like handle it really well, which is really good. It gives you an Ultra Dragoon that also gets you into your engine. Insanely good there. So this is the lineup I like right now. And then Foolish Burial, especially with the added benefit of the new monsters, like going second, you could just Foolish Burial Genius. And now Genius is going to bait and negate because you're going to target whatever. You can target a Heavenly Spheres, you can target a Borreload Savage, and just say, you don't get to activate that, so that they're forced to throw out a Savage on the first card you activate, just a 1-for-1 bait. And if they want to let it resolve, then great. Great. There's also good stuff like Ariel and Dragon, so yeah, you know, just added utility there, popping back row, banishing cards, obviously good as well. All right, moving into our trap lineup, starting off with the SHADDOLL stuff, 3 Sinister Shadow Games, 1 Core, 1 Incarnation, and 1 Schism. Sorry to say this, guys, Schism is an absolute must-have. I get if you're a budget player and you're like, oh, but shells are almost budget except for Schism. I'm sorry. You're just playing like an extremely bad SHADDOLL list if you're not playing just 1 copy Schism. All you need is 1 because it's so searchable and so recurable if your opponent's not able to banish it. But you need to have 1 of this card. I'm sorry. The rest is just fairly standard. Core is actually nice utility. I like it because it allows Apkallone to essentially add a card back from grave. So if you already had like Schism in grave or something, you could like send Apkallone and then use Apkallone's effect to add Core, send Core, and then Core can add Schism back from grave. And, you know, obviously you play if you have Schism. So very, very good. Also, Sinister Shadow Games has extra benefits with stuff like the SHADDOLL or the Hell SHADDOLL Hollow. So you can like set him turn 1 off of like a Wendy, and then you can Sinister Shadow Games to like send an Ariel and flip Hollow. So you literally get to banish a monster on the field and banish 3 cards from grave. That's insanely strong. And then he's a 29/29 beater. It's really good. Really nice to have in the main deck, actually. All right, moving into our trap lineup, our generic trap lineup, we've got 3 copies of Torrential Tribute and 1 Needle Sealing. This, I will let you know, is supposed to be 2 Needle Sealing, 2 Torrential. I just only have 1 Needle Sealing with me. I thought I had a second. But I like that. I like the mind games you can play there, where if you like flash either Torrential or Needle Sealing to your opponent in like game 1, then they will play the rest of the games playing around that card specifically. Because if you show Needle Sealing, they might be like, oh shit, he's taking Needle Sealing instead of Torrential Tribute. That's crazy. Okay, I'm going to play around Needle Sealing, not put 4 monsters on the board. But still summon, and then you can punish them with Torrential later on. Or vice versa. You show them Torrential, so they just try to, like, not summon. But if you can still just load enough monsters on the board, even though they're not summoning, Needle Sealing can still punish them, right? So they just kind of punish your opponent if they play around the other in certain instances. So I like that. Double Dogmatic of Punishment. This is searchable off Ecclesia. Even if you're not searching it off Ecclesia, it's great because it's either, like, pop 2 or it's like pop 1 and search anything in your deck, pop 1 and send anything. Just gets you, add something back from grave, like just gets you into your engine. That's what I like, is that it can be disruption, but also gets you into your engine, which sometimes I can find to be kind of awkward in trap-based decks like this, because you just draw like, you can have duels where you just draw like too many traps and you just like can't play because your hand's too full of traps. So all you do is stop your opponent, but you don't actually push your own board state. So I like that this can like halt your opponent while still allowing you to get to your plays. And then Dynamiscus, this triggers your SHADDOLL monsters on send. Not sure if I like this or IDP more. I feel like more and more people are like so weary of IDP because it's played in so many decks that like, so many meta decks are just like, I'm just gonna play either in a way or build my deck so that it doesn't lose as hard to IDP. And so yeah, sometimes IDP is just not the best, but also most of the time it is, because some decks you just can't even build or play around it. You just have to accept that it hurts a lot. So it's also really expensive. So for right now, I'm not worried about IDP. I still think Dynamiscus is a really nice placeholder there. And the last trap I play is 3 Solemn Strike. This is another one of those reasons where I'm like, maybe I should just drop the hand traps and just say, screw it. Let me just like set 3-4 back row, because if I have Torrential or Needle Sealing with this, we just like break a board. Like it just doesn't matter. Or Dogmatic of Punishment. We just break a whole ass board all in one fell swoop. But still really like this. Obviously, like card's insane. But that's it, 45 in the main. Like I said, my biggest concerns is honestly just the hand traps. What do I want to do with the hand traps? But still really like it. It's still very consistent, very powerful too. Like it's literally like if you don't get OTK'd immediately and just overwhelmed, you are gonna like probably win the duel, because you just like are just gonna stun your opponent out. You're gonna hold them at bay, and eventually you're just gonna out-resource them like crazy. But yeah, moving into the extra deck, let's start off with our fusions, our SHADDOLLs, 3 Construct, of course. Double Winda, double Abkalone, and I kind of want to find room for Shekanaga, but my friend actually has mine at the moment, but I'll also tell you which card I would swap for that. But I think this is pretty mandatory. In pure version, you want to have a nice amount of copies here, so obviously the 3 Construct, and then 2 and 2, so you can send some with punishment, but still be able to have another one to, you know, get that utility out of them as well. But yep, very good there, very standard. 1 Untis and 1 Chimera Phlasia, finishing up the fusions. This is where I would say, like, Untis is great because, like, Dogmatic of Punishment, just, if you need the double pop, you have the double pop. If not, you get a pop and add back, a pop and search and send, a pop and whatever. So, good there. And then you have Chimera Phlasia. This is the card I would swap for Shekanaga, I think. This card is just nice because you could Dogmatic of Punishment, send this, and then use this effect on your next standby phase to search Super Poly. And I know you won't be able to activate Super Poly that turn because you can't go into the extra deck, but you can just set it and it still breaks something apart. So it's still a cool card. It won't come up that often. I think you should probably just play Shekanaga because we do have Genius now, and he is an Earth, so you actually have a good SHADDOLL monster that you were already playing that gives us access to Earth material if we want to do that. And it makes it so, like, off of Hollow and or Schism, we could potentially get their send effects as well for like disruption against a specific deck that is you know, currently harboring some Earths. All right, sorry, just adjusted the camera. Moving into the links though, finishing up the list, we've got Gravity Controller, Artemis, SHADDOLL Construct, the regular SHADDOLL Construct, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Selene, and 1 Access Code. I'll tell you right now, I don't think you need to play Access Code. You can play Boral Sword. It's very small things, but I do obviously prefer Access Code. The main reason there is so that I could make Selene reborn something, and I could immediately go into Access Code, whereas off of Boral Sword, I would still need another monster on field because he requires 3 materials instead of 2 there. So it's totally fine to play Boral Sword though. Totally fine, and I think that's very warranted. But Cross Sheep and Selene are also really nice added bonuses because they can revive your Ecclesia from grave, and then Ecclesia search you a Dogmatic of Punishment for extra disruption. That's insanely strong there, but the rest of these pretty self-explanatory. Gravity Controller puts your fusions in grave so that you can trigger their effects. Artemis gets you a light if like your only way to a light is to like normal summon a spellcaster SHADDOLL and link it into this. SHADDOLL Construct is really nice when you don't have access to your fusions, but you do have access to a lot of link material because this card essentially is a walking fusion. Cross Sheep just helps you link up for stuff like Selene and Access Code, and then obviously Selene and Access Code, because they do what they do. All right, so that is pretty much it for the deck list here, guys. Again, I love SHADDOLLs. I'm honest, this is kind of my build, my like beta build with this deck, like trying to really figure out what I want to do with like the 2 new monsters, if they're really worth it. I'm gonna play them. I do think there's definitely an argument to say Hollow's too bricky, but we'll see. Maybe the payoff is worth it, having a main deck big beater that also gives you nice removal, that can also be a disruption in the right hand. I still think it's fine. And then obviously Genius, just giving you that extra versatile way of disrupting your opponent on field, instead of stuff like Ariel and Winda holding them down. So yeah, that's it for my list. Of course, let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on this list, what you would do if you had this list, what you would change here. I'm always taking suggestions because I'm just one dude building these decks as I do. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more deck profiles from me in the future. We are very close to Ancient Guardians, and I will be building multiple Ogdoadic decks most likely, and theorizing that deck a lot. And then of course Lightning Overdrive a couple weeks after that. So a lot of cool stuff coming, ton of cool products down the line. I can't wait to get cracking on those. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.